So tell us a little bit about how trading is going. In the first 2 months, you're saying encouraging. Just how encouraging has it been?
Well, I've been in this game for a long time, so you see a lot of cycles, and this one has been particularly different in as much as it's been a long time. So whenever you're trying to predict an outcome from a long period, 5 years of difficulty, you don't want to really put all your cards on one table and say, this is it, it's now happening. However, we're comfortable, the numbers are good, but then the numbers where? And that's the other point, because we're an international company, we have 75% of our business outside of the UK, significant exposure to interesting stories like Australia, the slowdown, the impact. We're in China, we're in Japan, which is a very interesting market again. They're all slightly different stories. So when it comes to a blanket statement, are we coming out of a bad period of time? I think we are. Confidence is returning generally, but there are different stories within that.
Yeah, and let's start with the UK, Robert, because it's 34%, I think, of your sales. So it's a big, sizable proportion of your revenues. What's the takeaway here within the UK economy?
Much better confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I sit and watch you guys having my cup of tea in the morning, and I hear lots of people talking about things, about whether it's housing, whether it's about currency, whatever it might be. And there is a definite feeling that the UK is improving. And we're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing it in the regions, not just London. We're seeing it in our outsourcing business. We're seeing it in different threads.
Too much confidence or running away with itself, or
No.
just ticking along?
No, I don't think
This is for real, is it?
Yeah, I think so. My money would be on this for being for real.
Let's go through some of those other regions, the different stories they paint, because Australia has not been such a positive story, has it, of late, for you and other recruitment businesses?
It hasn't been great for us and our friends, and I think it's an economy that has clearly been aligned very closely to what's been going on in emerging markets, particularly China and to a lesser extent India. We all know that. It hit our Perth and Brisbane offices quite hard. However, I was there, when was I there? 2 months ago, and confidence is really strong. I was in Perth and Sydney. I decided I want to go to a mining, I want to see the coal face, to ignore the pun, somewhere that's really, you know, suffering, and I saw such optimism. And I think it's just behind us.
And now this is within the mining industry or within
Perth. In Perth, mining companies...
That's interesting, because they're trying to, of course, move away from mining, aren't they, to balance the economy?
Well, they are, but then where do you move to? Because you've got a population of 21 million people. People say retail is improving, which I think it is. And people say that banking will return to Sydney, but there's not a lot of sort of reasons behind that.
Well, what about China? You touched on China. I mean, there's so much news coming out of China today itself. You know, manufacturing data's declining. There's a big Congress taking place this week. The currency fell by the most ever on Friday, Robert. From your market perspective, what's the true picture in China?
The picture in China, well, I was on this trade mission in December to China, being sold China to me, basically, and I found it fascinating. And so I don't propose to be a macroeconomic expert on this. We're new in China. We've only been there 3 years, so it's for us a truly emerging market. I think the big problem we have in China, in recruitment terms, limited loyalty of staff. I think there's a lot of wage inflation. It moves at around 20%. We have quite a good reputation at hanging on to staff and developing people in most countries in the world, different cultures, everything else. The biggest challenge we've had was actually in China.
Is that your own employees or the clients you're placing?
Our own
employees,
yeah.
right.
You'd think it'd be quite good because a lot of people moving jobs, which I suppose it is, but you need people to place them. And
how do you cope with 20% wage inflation?
You give pay increases.